This is LiveWell Talk on a day in the life of plant operations. I'm Dr. Dustin Arnold, Chief Medical Officer at Unity Point Health, St. Luke's Hospital. Today's episode is part of a series where we've highlighted different service lines and departments of the hospital, and today it's plant operations. Joining me today is B.J. Schreckengast, Manager of Plant Operations at St. Luke's, to discuss the roles and the makeup of the plant operations and just what they do on an average day. Welcome.
Thank you.
First podcast?
It is,
All
yes.
Right. Well, we're glad to have you. First of all, how long have you been here at St. Luke's?
I'll be 22 years this year.
22 years.
Yep.
And what did you do? Did you start in?
So I started in security right out of high school and thought I wanted to go into law enforcement, signed up to go to classes at Kirkwood. And the position I got for security guard was third shift, midnight to 8 a.m., and they were shorthanded back then. And so I ended up working full time, and it was crazy. I honestly didn't even know that many people were up at night from midnight to 8 a.m., and so it was a lot of learning. And but I quickly realized law enforcement was not my strong forte, and so I obviously have a strong mechanical background and growing up, and so I applied for a maintenance spot, and after about 4.5 years, and been there since. So it's been good.
I think, to me, plant operations, or, some people just call it maintenance. I think that's kind of the common term.
Yep.
I think there's always a time that I think you've been highlighted, your skill set and your team, flood in 08, flood in, 17, 18? Was that somewhere in there?
Yep.
Wasn't it?
I think 18, yeah.
Dre show, the time we had the possibly contagious patient, we set up 5 West, to get those things done that quick. And so I don't think a lot of people appreciate just all the people that are on the maintenance team or the plant ops team. So kind of just give us an overview of just what makes up plant operations.
So we have roughly about 21, 22 guys right now. Obviously, over the years, technology improvements and, automation, it's actually scaled down quite a bit. When I started, we had probably 26, 27 guys. And over the last few years, we've been able to move that down and be more efficient. But so we have maintenance mechanic is kind of the entry level general position. Those guys are out on the floors, out front, day to day. They're hanging just general items on the wall to repairing office furniture to changing ceiling tile or anything like that. And then we have 2 plumbers and 2 electricians, actually 3 electricians now. And then we have painters. We have 2 painters, a carpenter, a boiler operator. We run the steam plant for both here in
Chris is over there, yeah.
Yep. And then we have several building systems engineer guys, and that's those guys kind of have to know everything. I lean on them quite a bit to run all the systems and utilities and infrastructure that we have here at the hospital. I'd kind of say it's actually like running a small city, honestly.
Yeah, I don't think that's a mistake.
Yeah, I mean every single utility, that the city has, we're monitoring and maintaining that. We're always concerned about water quality coming into the building, to making sure, we have both feeds from Alliant for electrical, making sure our generators are always ready, from sewer lines, and making sure sewer lines are doing what they're supposed to and not having issues there.
Well, and a hospital is a type of business that it's not like you can just, I'll just shut her down for the day, guys. Come back tomorrow. We'll have it fixed. I mean, you got to have a backup plan, don't you?
Yep. Yeah. And actually, just like this week with the planned water shutdown Thursday night, even though it's a very brief water shutdown, the whole hospital doing that, the last time we did that was in 2006. So, we obviously have partial shutdowns pretty regularly for construction or for emergency repairs. But this one here, I was here then, but don't really remember too much. But that was when the master facility plan was going on.
Yeah. So can I ask you that question? I mean, I hear, we get the email and East building will have a water shutdown from this time to that time. Is that always because construction? They're doing something they need to turn
for the
water
most
off?
part, yeah. Construction or maintenance wise, right now we're working in the behavioral health areas, installing some ligature-proof toilets and making that area safer for our patients up there. So, we're having a weekly shutdown going through getting those done right now.
Right. Okay. That makes sense. What's the of the time you've been here? You mentioned the water shutdown, the one that's coming up. But what's the toughest project you've had?
Boy, the generator plant, it was kind of a transition period. I was obviously very new in my role and actually interim a little bit there. And that kind of got thrown into that in the middle of that project. And we obviously have a really good support team down there. Lori helped manage some of it. She's the construction side of things. So, but infrastructure wise and generators, that was a very difficult project because how do you build another generator plant to serve the hospital and maintain the one you have? And also, how do you make those tie-ins and still maintain emergency backup power? Because you never know when we're going to have a power blink. Just like last week, I think it was, we had the power blink last Wednesday or Tuesday here in the afternoon from the wind.
I was in Des Moines Wednesday, so it must have been Tuesday.
Yeah, yep. From the wind, and then I think it was last fall or whatever, we had the power blink from the snake, getting in. And
I forgot about that.
So you never know when that power is going to go out. But, there was some nerve-wracking times for me making decisions that, is it safe to take our generators offline, or if we do take them offline, what's our contingency plan? How fast can we get them hooked back up and going? And, working with several physicians. I think actually you and I even met back then with a physician when we were doing the Women's and Children's Center. I think we had a brief meeting with Julie Sturbaum. And
that's right.
Going through that scenario and trying to figure it out. I will say, one thing working in security, you're trained to look for the worst case scenario. What's the next thing? So that's constantly what I'm thinking about is, okay, this goes down, what's the next thing we got to do? And if that fails, where are we going to go with that?
Well, like the flood in 2008, it was a lightning strike that took out our Alliant.
Yeah.
It wasn't the flood. It just happened to happen on the same day.
Yeah.
Which a lot of people, just assume those had something to do with the flood. I mean, it obviously had something to do with the rain.
Yeah.
It was lightning and thunder. But you have to have contingencies upon contingencies upon contingencies. So I don't know about you, BJ, but I've learned over the years, you have to have contingencies, and you have to think about all the things that could possibly happen. But sometimes you just can't possibly even begin to imagine what's going to happen. So then you just have to surround yourself with a great team that's flexible and can maintain momentum and get the job done. So tell us about your team.
Great group of guys down there. We have two guys still that have 44 years in this year working. And then we have another two guys with over 30 years. And then starts to taper down pretty quick there. But we do have a few guys around 20 years, 15 to 20 years there. And then we got some new ones coming in, and it was always, told you don't want a lot of turnover in the maintenance department. You want that skill set that, remember where everything's at in the building, what serves what, and know that you can't just walk in here. Probably the biggest complaint I've had from some guys that came here and worked and have left is how hard it is to learn the whole facility. I think, a lot of people struggle with that, just to learn the whole campus and know where everything's at. That takes about a year just to probably do that and feel comfortable where you're at.
So there's a long learning curve to
there is, yeah. A lot of nooks and crannies.
Yeah, I bet. How if someone's interested in that, I mean, do they have to have training or school, or can you just come in and you're just interested in those? You like to do stuff with your hands? Tell us about that. How does someone get into this sort of thing?
Honestly, myself, I didn't complete college. I withdrew. I didn't want to waste my parents' money going to college there. So, working full time worked for me. But I had, I would say, zero experience. I worked at Menards briefly for a while out of high school, and worked for my grandpa in a commercial mowing business, and but growing up myself, mechanical things just came natural with me. My dad and I worked on motorcycles and cars quite a bit. I had a drag car in high school that we raced and did that sort of thing. And people always ask me, it's like, how do you know how to do that? And I said, I don't know. I can see it, and so that's benefited me greatly. I don't have an education, but I've been able to work my way up here, over the last 2 decades. But we do have our electricians. Some of them are licensed electrician, just like union electricians are.
I had an uncle that was an electrician here, like way back in the 80s.
Yeah,
for a brief time.
Yeah, yep. And obviously, I would prefer that, but if the right candidate presents themselves here, the hospital will invest in them, and that's the greatest thing I can say. Is that investment, of sending you for training. I was sent to go get my refrigeration license, so I was able to buy and handle refrigerant and maintain refrigerant. And I always really appreciated that the hospital wasn't afraid if I put in something, they're going to give back. And I continue that today with the guys. So I'd say it's an alternative. I'd certainly encourage guys. Kirkwood Community College is a great school. They have a great HVAC program for heating, cooling, ventilation, and all that. So I'd certainly encourage them to look at going there. But we're certainly not afraid to bring in somebody with no experience at all.
I think if I mean, I love what I do, but I think being an electrician would be pretty cool because you not only do you have a lot of science, and that the electrical and even the chemical aspect of electricity, but you also solve problems. So I think that for me that'd be a pretty cool job. I think. Why do we always have construction?
We got to stay competitive, and we're extremely busy. Probably the busiest I can ever think we have been here, with projects going on, and it's construction is an inconvenience, in a hospital. You can't just close or shut down. And, what I've always told the guys in training and in meetings and stuff like that, we're not just the maintenance guys at an apartment building. I said, we turn a breaker off, we could potentially be turning a breaker off to somebody in ICU, on a ventilator, or you turn water off to something that serves a dialysis patient or whatever. So it's very critical to really think about what you're touching and affecting.
You remember Sue Ram?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Great. Sue's awesome. And she started out in medical records transcribing and worked her all the way up to, at her retirement, she's in charge of IT. And she would always tell people that you might not understand it, but what you're doing at that point in time, at one end of what your actions are, there's a patient. Even if you're transcribing or helping fix a computer, it ultimately ends up at a patient. And I think your team really represents that. I know they have duties, but I've never heard them say, "Well, that's not my job." They're always like, "Hey, I'm here to help, and I'll have to fix it." But then, and I think the Graham guys and the Pipe Pro guys, they're real sensitive that they're working in a hospital.
Yeah.
They're quiet as they go down the hallways. They, try to do things with not disturbing you. Are they easy to work with? You like working with those guys?
They are. It is. Hospital is a completely different environment. There's benefits of working in this environment. You're in a climate-controlled environment inside most of the time, and you're not working in a dark hole at a factory. But we're very, very fortunate here to have great contractors. I'll give a shout out to Joe with Graham. He's I would say my sidekick there. We back each other up, constantly bouncing things off each other on, what are we going to do here and how we make sure it's safe for our patients when we're tearing into a wall to fix a leaking water line in a chase or something like that. Or, how do we work above the OR or operating room, or we're getting ready to do some construction right above our sterile processing department, that has a positive pressure area, just like an OR, where you can't just go in there anytime, and you can't pop a ceiling tile and tear into a pipe when they're doing sterile processing right below you on equipment that's going to basically go up and be used on a patient.
Yeah, and we've done a sterile processing podcast. I mean, they run pretty much around the clock, don't they?
They do
to prepare for the next day.
Yeah. Yep.
Clean up from whatever they did that day. They take a lot of pride in their work. I think during the pandemic, I know you were in a lot of those meetings. Just the air movement through a hospital and through just a building, I found very interesting, because you looked at. So I was reading about that right at the beginning of the pandemic, trying to figure out air exchanges, and I know you had that memorized. But that was like a big component early on, trying to figure that out, trying to make it negative pressure, cobbling together up on the old CCU so we could have those negative pressure rooms. You guys were fabulous. But it made me appreciate how buildings are built, because like in like third world countries where they don't have heating and cooling, but they built these older hospitals to match the direction of the wind, to to think about that. It was so fascinating, and it was such a big part of the pandemic early on.
It was interesting, that's for sure. I mean, we went from trying to make sure that our ER was positive and blowing out, we're bringing in fresh air, but okay, you want to make the ER positive, but we still wanted some negative rooms. I mean, early on, not knowing truly what we were getting into, and you just run with it, and you do it, and do the best you can with what you got. We relied heavily on our contractors during that time, even to assist us, which was great. I mean, they weren't afraid to come in and help us. Some people had no desire to come to the hospital, during that time, and I didn't have a single contractor say, no, I'm not coming down there to do that, or we're can't help you out, so that was really good, that support model, and I'd say, one thing on that, it was interesting with the pandemic, a lot of contractors and facilities and factories shut down, and job security wise here, I had a job to go to all the time. So
there is some job security in healthcare, food industry and healthcare people, unfortunately, we're going to get sick and they got to eat. So I think those are two industries that will be sustained, and they're rewarding. Right. At the end of the day, and your team is fabulous. They are always like, okay, yeah, we'll do this, and they're such good problem solvers. So, well, this has been interesting, BJ. I always enjoy seeing you. Once again, this is BJ Schreckengast, Plant Operations Manager here at St. Luke's. If you're interested in a career in plant operations, visit unitypoint.org/careers. Thank you for listening to LiveWell Talk On. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to subscribe, and if you want to spread the word, please give us a 5-star review and tell your family, friends, neighbors, strangers about our podcast. We're available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Pandora, or wherever you get your podcast. Until next time, be well.